Welcome to the Writer Groupie Podcast. I'm Kim Smith, the writing guru, bringing you discussions, insights, and insider details on planning, producing, promoting, and profiting as a writer. This is a podcast by writers for writers. You can find out more about Writer Groupie at www.writergroupie.net. And here's the next episode of Writer Groupie. Welcome everybody to this episode of Writer Groupie. We're at episode 66, you guys. That's a special number. It's a 2-digit number and it's a double number and it's sixes, which I really like. And tonight my guest is David R. Hardiman. David's the author of Bailey's Remarkable Plan, and this Bailey's Remarkable Plan book sounds like a remarkable book. So, David, welcome to Writer Groupie.
Thank you, Kim. Glad to be here.
I am so excited to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to hearing all about your book. And so, why don't you break the ice for us and tell us about yourself and Bailey's Remarkable Plan?
Well, I'm a little bit mature these days with a lot of other baby boomers, so I fit into that category. And I have a very interesting life behind me and at present as well. I'm married to the same woman for 48 years coming in December, so somehow...
Congratulations!
Well, thank you. I've been privileged and blessed to have her as part of my life, and that story is also in my book, and it's quite a neat story, quite a romantic story, so it's a big part of my life. And I have 3 grown daughters who have, between them, 6 grandchildren of mine that I adore and enjoy, and we have lots of...
I'm jealous I don't have any yet. I'm looking forward to that day.
Oh, you're going to have fun. It's a whole other part of life that you will enjoy. I've enjoyed one of mine and continue to, and it's been a blessing. We are a Christian family, and we all have the same belief and system of loving and giving, and that makes for a fun time for all of us to be able to be together as we are. The addition to my family was one that I hadn't expected quite the way that it occurred, and that is, of course, Bailey. Bailey is my service dog, and I had no idea that I was going to need a service dog, but somehow or another Bailey knew that even before I did, which again is part of the story. What I've done in this book is attempt to put together a number of different storylines to make it interesting, and I've been told that it is very interesting. This is a copy of the book right here, so you get an idea of what we're talking about with the book. You'll see Bailey on the cover there. She's a star in her own right, believe me. Anywhere we go, Bailey is of great interest to people who see her. They want to know her. They want to find out about her. So I get lots of opportunity to share our story. The circumstances that I have are quite unique. I was born with a genetic condition, immune defect in my system. I did not get all the DNA on my system, so I'm susceptible to a lot of infections, viral as well as bacterial. So it's a circumstance that I've lived a life that fortunately most people don't have to live. The other part of that story is that I wasn't diagnosed with what I have until I was 53 years old.
My word.
And you realize that all that time up to that point, I'd been dealing with lots of illnesses in and out of hospitals and various and sundry things. It was a situation where when they were finally able to diagnose what I had, it was because I was near death. And by fortunate happenstance, the doctor I had, my oncologist, was able to make the different diagnosis than what they originally thought. They originally thought that I had a blood tumor and that it would kill me in a matter of a short period of time. And fortunately, that turned out not to be the case. But throughout my life, I had numerous issues, lots of different issues. And my book tells about these stories. Now, some of these are quite funny, and at least in hindsight, they're quite funny. And some of them are quite telling because my life wasn't like most people's life. I was born poor. I was born in the middle of a streak of tornadoes with sirens off and flooding happening and so forth and so on. So my entrance into the world was quite dramatic just to get going. And the circumstances were such that I actually lived in a car part of my childhood. I was quite transient for a while, and today we would have been classified as homeless. And of course, back then we had no resources to help. So you were on your own if you were in that situation, and we were definitely in that situation. There are a lot of different interesting stories about my life that are encapsulated in this book. And the reason that I titled the book Bailey's Remarkable Plan is that the most interesting story in my life is how this little dog became my salvation. Because I developed PTSD as a result of the intravenous treatments for the condition I have going haywire, and my adrenal system trying to shut down, and then the end result was that I developed PTSD, the same thing you hear about with veterans. Mine was caused by illness and other circumstances, and a lot of people are just finding out that PTSD is not just veteran-related. It can be any kind of trauma to your life, and I certainly had a lot of traumas in my life.
Oh, sounds like it.
It was a situation where this little dog was already helping me with the condition, which is called hypogammaglobulinemia. You can't say
My
that.
Goodness, what a name. Could they make medical terms any shorter, please?
I don't think they want to. I think they enjoy making them this way. And it took me a while to learn how to say it, and it took me a lot longer to learn how to spell it. So it's been quite an interesting word to have part of my life. The reality with Bailey is that she knew I had this condition, and she would cuddle up to me when I would come home. Bailey has never wanted to let me out of her sight from the instant we got her. But then when I developed PTSD, she knew before I did that I was going to need her. And literally the first panic attack I had with the PTSD, Bailey probably saved my life because she woke me from a sleep that I couldn't wake out of. And my heart was really pounding and racing, and it's very possible that I would not have survived that if it had not been for Bailey. She did. All of that's described in the book, and the fact that Bailey is unique also, she understands what you say to her in a way that I've only known humans to be able to do. I've had lots of dogs in my life, never had one that was so intelligent and so perceptive as Bailey, but she literally recognizes the things that are being said around her, not even to her necessarily, but around her. So it makes for a neat story. What really was the catalyst to write this book was an incident where she and I were in a mall, and Bailey is certified as such through my oncologist. That's one of the other things that I do in this book is educate people to the laws regarding service dogs from the ADA and from different state levels, because most people don't understand that a service dog doesn't have to be a German Shepherd, doesn't have to be a big dog, and doesn't have to be for someone that's blind or deaf. There are a lot of different utilization of service dogs these days. And in Bailey's case, she looks so different than what you usually expect that I get a lot of conversation, which is good because I get to tell people about Bailey and how she helps me and what she does for me. The incident, though, that occurred that caused me to finally make the decision to write this particular book was one where she and I were told we had to leave a mall or I would be arrested. And literally, that was a security guard service that was in that mall that started this, and they treated me like dirt. I asked for the police to come and help, mediate the situation because I thought surely they know the law. But when the police officers got there, not only did they not know the law, they didn't care about the law, and even their sergeant was of the same mind. It was a simple situation of education. So in the process of going through that, of course, I left the mall. I didn't want to be arrested. And they wouldn't have wanted me to be arrested because it would have been a huge story that nobody wants. They're good officers, but obviously there was a lacking of knowledge there. So I realized that there was a better way to inform the public about service dogs and how they help us. That's part of what this book does. But if you go through the book and look at my life and the faith that I had in God getting me through it, it becomes much more meaningful as to why I'm here, what God had in mind for me. my oncologist is a Buddhist. And when he started giving the treatments, 3 months into it, he had me come into his private office, and we sat down, and he asked me why I thought I'd been able to do the things I've done. And I looked at him and I said, well, my faith in God and Christ is the only explanation I can give you as to, why I've been able to do these things. And then he explained to me that I'm unique in the sense that every case he could find and every patient he had who has this condition, which is rare, nobody had success in their life in any one area, much less all the areas. I've been successful in being in business, both in corporate and in owning my own companies. I've been successful in being married to the same woman all these years. Somehow or another, she's put up with me, and I appreciate that. I've been successful in having children that everybody wants to have the kind of children I have, and grandchildren the same way. So I've been very blessed, and I felt like I had to tell this story so that others who are fighting different types of obstacles maybe than mine would realize that you can do it if you trust God and if you have faith in Him. So that's a big part of my story.
That is wonderful. That is just such a wonderful, I don't know, should I say testimony? I mean, it almost is. It's like, I'm sure if you gave your testimony, that would be a great large part of it. I mean, because you are really amazing based on what I've heard already. I mean, I have not finished the book, obviously, but man, it's a good book. And it's a wonderful story, and I just know this is going to really encourage somebody else. So why don't you tell us about Bailey, how she came to be a part of your family, and a little bit about her breed, because some people might not know.
Bailey is a long-haired Shih Tzu, and of course her picture is on the cover of the book, as I was showing you earlier. This is Bailey, right? Make sure I get this where you can see her, right there.
Yeah.
And when you look at Bailey, she is absolutely a perfect-looking Shih Tzu. She's got long, beautiful hair. A lot of people actually confuse her with being a child when I have her, because I usually hold her in my arms.
Yeah.
And they think that, here, I'll get her here and show you just a second what Bailey really is.
Yay, Bailey time. There
Yeah,
she is.
This is my girl.
Hey, oh, she's so sweet.
She is quite a little actor herself. She loves to be photographed. If you notice when you see the pictures of her, she's looking right at the camera, and that's on her own. There's no tricks to make her do it. She just knows she's getting a picture made, and she gets her picture made. Even when we're at book signings, people will be taking pictures, and Bailey will look right at the cameras for them. It is really cute. So,
at one point, I wanted to be a pet photographer. I used to shoot photography professionally, and I did a lot of weddings and senior shots and stuff like that. But I really liked shooting pets, and I thought about getting into pet photography at one time, but I never had that luck. Pets didn't want to look straight at the camera for me, so now it's nice to meet Bailey. Finally, there's a dog who understands and appreciates good photography.
That's absolutely our photographer who took the pictures for the book, of course, was a professional, and she was just blown away by Bailey. She said she'd never had a dog that cooperated so much with getting her picture made.
I'm
Bailey,
saying.
It's really cute. But Bailey has long hair. Most Shih Tzus that people see in public are cut because their hair tangles and mats. Bailey's hair doesn't tangle and mat like most of them, so it's able to stay long. That was one of the most interesting things to us, because we'd had a Shih Tzu previously, and we couldn't keep her hair long, even though we tried. Bailey, on the other hand, from the beginning, it was obvious that her hair would be able to be long and stay that way. And what really happened to get Bailey is another part of what's in my book and another interesting aspect of my story. We had a little Shih Tzu, Mercedes, that we'd had for 17 and a half years, and when she passed on, my wife loved that name, and so we named her Mercedes, and she was a sweet little girl. She did lots of things with us and was a lot of fun. But after 17 and a half years, we made a decision that we weren't going to try to replace her. And that was a decision because we didn't want the pain of loss again, because we loved Mercedes greatly. But 3 years almost, well, actually just almost 3 years to the day after Mercedes passed away, Trish and I both the same day wanted to talk about getting another dog, and a Shih Tzu was, of course, the one that we wanted. So we set about finding Shih Tzus in the area, and since we had the internet now, it was a lot easier to reach out and find Shih Tzu.
Oh,
And we located a little litter that we decided we wanted to go see, and we went to see the litter, and it was kind of interesting. We went to see Bailey because we'd seen a picture of her, but the circumstance was such that when we got there, there was another little dog that presented herself and was, quite happy. And so we picked that one up first. And there were a couple of college-age girls who also were there to find themselves a little Shih Tzu, and they picked another dog up that left Bailey in the cage by herself. And as we looked at this one dog, I handed it to my wife, and I decided that I had to pick Bailey up because Bailey needed to have some attention. And the instant I picked her up, it was a different thing. She started kissing on my hands and on my face, and she did the same thing to Trish. And we instantly knew Bailey was the dog that we wanted. And Bailey never missed her family. She never missed her mother, and she was living with her father, too. She never missed them. She was right with us from the get-go. And, of course, the idea was that she would be primarily my wife's dog because Mercedes had been primarily my wife's dog.
Funny how we plan these things without asking the dog first.
Yeah, it really was interesting in Bailey's situation because Bailey said, you're mine. And she picked me from the beginning. And if you read the book, you'll discover that Bailey had a personality from the beginning that is really cool. I mean, she has a great personality. She has two sides. She has the work side, and she is absolutely intent on taking care of me. And then she has the play side, and she's absolutely intent on playing with me. And we have lots of fun. She insists I get down on the floor and bark like a dog with her.
And you don't mind complying at all, do you?
No, I don't. I don't mind a bit. We have a lot of fun. We wrestle and we play, and she has more toys than I had as a child. So, it's fun to let her pick out what toys she wants to play with today, and we'll usually end up with 3 or 4 at a time that she's got out, and she'll wrestle with me, and she'll make me think she's going to chew me up, and she, of course, doesn't. So she's quite a fun dog. She really is.
Anyway, Tinkerbell was she was more than a pet. She was really another child. And, she had congestive heart failure and so many health problems that we realized that it was us wanting her to be here with us, and it wasn't her needing to be here with us anymore, and we had to have her put to sleep, and it was terrible. It was absolutely horrible. We sat on the sofa every night for weeks, and we just held each other and cried. It was like we had lost a child. So when we got ready to get another dog, we decided we wanted another Chihuahua, and I got online, just like you, and we found Darby at a place down in about 5 hours from here, way down in Mississippi, close to the coast. And we drove down there, and the lady met us. She was sitting in her car, and she had a basket in her lap with 3 puppies, a blonde, a black, and a brunette. And the black and the blonde were females, and the little brown dog was a male. And I said, let me play with the black dog first. So she gives me the black dog, and I'm holding her and talking to her. And I hand her to my husband and say, let me see how she looks on you. Well, so he's holding her and talking to her, and I look down in the car into the basket, and the little blonde female is trying to climb out of the car. She is doing everything in her power to get to me. Wow. I said, let me see that dog. So I picked this dog up, and it was like I had picked up a piece of my heart. I melted all the way down to my toenails, and I told Alan, that's my husband, I said, give me that dog. He gave me the black dog, gave it back to the lady, and said, go get my wallet. That was it. I mean, we didn't pick her, she picked us. And I want you to know, of course, my husband has been going through cancer. And she, of course, we've not had her certified as a service dog or anything, but she really is. She's a service dog. She's a comfort dog. She's everything you could ever imagine. She has been his boon companion all through chemo, all through his recovery. When he felt the worst, she was always there to make his day a little brighter. So I understand your story so much, because so much of it just kind of resonates with me. We've had the same sort of scenario, and it's just amazing how much animals enrich our lives. They make a difference in our life.
They definitely do. And in reality, there is not a certification as such for service dogs. When you get a certification, you're getting it through a school. Typically, if you're getting a real certification, it's that the school has trained the dog to be a service dog. But many dogs these days, especially for PTSD and like epilepsy and diabetes and things like that, are dogs that are self-trained by the people who have them, because they have a specific skill set and that person has a specific issue, and it's something that gets discovered in the process, and they realize the dog can help. Now, in my case, my oncologist went so far as to write a letter because it made such a difference in my life. Before I started utilizing Bailey as my service dog, I had gone from being a public speaker and owner of a company where I spoke to hundreds and sometimes thousands of people at a time and never had an issue talking to people. After the PTSD, I literally could not talk to one person without starting to shake and having such an issue that I just simply chose not to. I was a hermit. I couldn't leave the house. And even having family was a stress to me that sometimes I couldn't handle. So once Bailey began to be accepted and I began to utilize her as a service dog, it made all the difference in me being able to live again and to have a life. And without that, I couldn't have written the book, and I certainly couldn't do the things. I couldn't talk with you because I've got Bailey 5 feet away, and she's watching me, and she knows if I need her, and she'll come if I do. Yeah. I can talk to you even on this kind of a format. Previously to after the PTSD hit, until I reached the point that I did this with Bailey, I couldn't do it. And I can't explain to you what it is, except that I really have a reason to believe that Bailey is an angel sent to take care of me from God. And literally, because in my book, you'll read a story about a man that the only explanation for him is that he is an angel. My 14-year-old daughter at the time and I were trying to help him because he was barefooted in the middle of a snowy winter day, had a very light coat on. It was very cold outside, and we stopped to try to help him. He wouldn't accept our help. Finally got him to take $5 from me, and he agreed to do that. I gave him my business card, and I told him, I said, if I can help you, come to me, call me, do something. Let me take care of your needs because I'm willing to help you, and I know you're not asking for a handout. Because he wasn't. He was a very decent individual. Yeah. The next moment is one that lives in my mind as if it just happened, and I still get cold chills just talking about it. The man looked at me, and he looked at Holly, and he said, I'll see you again someday. And he wasn't threatening us. It was so cool of a feeling that I cannot describe it. It was just really something special. And interestingly enough, Bailey has always had a preference for my daughter over our other daughters or over anyone else in the family except for Trish and me, my wife. So Bailey feels a connection there. And that was noticed right off the bat because it is really neat the way she responds to Holly. And she has always responded to me as if she knew me, as if she was here for a reason. So that's my best explanation of Bailey and how she is able to work and help me. She's supposed to do that. But it is really neat. When you read the story, people tell me you can't put it down. It's hard to stop reading, even if you've got to go do something. And that is with a purpose, because all I've done is sit down and talk through these pages as if I'm having this conversation with you, as if I'm here in my living room. And people have told me that when they're reading the book, it feels just like I'm talking directly to them. So I've got a style that I think people will enjoy. A lot of folks have already shared that with me, so I'm not breaking any secrets here. It seems to be getting out that that's the way the book is written. And of course, my idea, Kim, is to educate people, but to lift them up, to give them a spiritual frame of reference, to realize that you can take all kinds of issues and you can succeed in life. If you trust God, He'll take care of you. And without that trust, when you read the book, there are so many things that happened in my life that I should have died as a result of those things happening. And I didn't. God saw me through them, and I didn't put all of them in the book. I mean, there are some unbelievable things that I just decided people probably would have trouble even being able to read it because it's so emotional. So I didn't put those things in, but there's enough in this book that if you are a Christian especially, you're going to recognize God's moving in my life. If you're not a Christian, but you want to find out about Christianity, this book is good for that. And I've had some churches that are utilizing this book to help tell people about God and Christ. And it's got a really good family friendliness to it. Children can even read the book. I've had children as young as 8 years old that have gotten the book and asked their parents if they could have the book so they could read it. So that's quite cool. That wasn't exactly the audience that I expected to reach out.
Right.
They are reaching out to it. So it's adult-centered, but it's child-centered. And when you read some of my...
it's more importantly Christ-centered, which is even more wonderful. And I am so proud for you that you had the opportunity to have Bailey help you through so much to get to a point where you could write your book, because God uses stuff.
He
does. No
matter
what we think, it can be a speck of pepper. God can use it. And,
that's right.
And, I'm sure your book is going to really change lives. And I'm just thrilled to death you came on this show tonight. And I do want to say thanks to Stephanie Patrick at Cottage PR and Consulting for setting us up. I will put a link in the blog post to Stephanie. Also, is there a publishing company that's working with you for your book that you'd like to, for me to link to? And where can we find you online? Okay,
Brown Book Publishing is the company that published the book. They're an independent publisher. You can link to my website, which is baileysremarkableplan.com. If you want to communicate directly with me, you can do it through that website, but a better way to do it, a faster way to do it, is to go through baileysremarkableplan@gmail.com. So the name of the book, all lowercase, gmail.com, will come directly to me. And if you want an autographed copy of the book, that's the way to do that. That's the best way to do it. But baileysremarkableplan.com is a really good website. There's lots of...
It is. I've been there.
You can tell everybody how great it is. I don't have that's good, but it
is. You guys, you got to go look at baileysremarkableplan.com. It is a sweet site. It has a lot of information. It's gloriously done. I'm sort of jealous. I need to get a book site for one of my books, but anyway, thank you so much for coming on the show. David, we're down to the last few minutes of the show, and about this time, I like to ask my authors to share some advice for an aspiring author. In your case, this being your probably first book, maybe not an aspiring author kind of advice, but maybe a piece of advice for somebody struggling with PTSD or struggling with a crisis in their life and a desire to find a way to help themselves. Maybe you can speak to that.
Sure, I'd be glad to, Kim. And I'm by no means classifying myself as an expert on all types and conditions with PTSD. It's a nightmare. With everything that I faced in my life, all the struggles I had, nothing was ever like PTSD. This is a devil that I wish I was not burdened with. I am better now than I was when it first started, but believe me, it was like I had gone into a haunted house that had the worst devils in the world in that haunted house, and literally the only thing they could do for me was knock me completely out. They had to drink me up just for me to keep from pulling my hair out. It was so bad. And literally every time I'd close my eyes, I'd have this vision of horror that I couldn't get away from. And it was a circumstance where life like that is no fun. So people who have PTSD, and it's hard for someone who hasn't suffered with PTSD to really understand this. I certainly didn't understand it before I got it. I knew that it was bad, had no idea what it was like. And the reality is that medicine hasn't really figured out a good solution for PTSD yet. They try different things, different kinds of therapy. But I would tell you that everything that I tried didn't work until I relied on Bailey. Now, if you're a veteran, you've got access to different schools that will teach dogs how to help take care of your needs with PTSD. So you've got a benefit there. You don't always have to pay for it. So if you're a veteran suffering with PTSD, and I've dealt with a number of folks who fit that category, reach out to those organizations. Tell them your need. Go to your local VA center. Explain what's going on. Don't sit by yourself. Don't sit by yourself and fail to get help because you can get help. Don't give up. It's a condition that makes you want to give up. Don't do it. Don't give up. I still struggle daily with that issue of, is it really worth continuing? But yes, excuse me just a second.
Yeah,
Lost voice thing.
We all have to battle our demons, don't we?
Everybody has demons of some sort. They definitely do. I haven't met anyone in my life that said it was absolutely perfect if they were telling me the truth. I've had lots of instances where I've talked with people and helped people with different kinds of issues. Part of my business was helping people who had needs like cancer situations and things like that. So I've dealt with a lot of folks with a lot of different struggles. Nobody has a perfect life. Even if they tell you they do, that just means that they're hiding something, because we all are human. We all have difficulties. And I say in the book, it's how you handle the difficulties, who you rely on with those difficulties that makes the difference. Without Christ in my life, my oncologist tells me I wouldn't have survived childhood. He doesn't know how I did it. And with all the things that I went through, literally, it would have been much easier just to not fight. But I never quit fighting. I've been fighting now for 69 years. And I expect I'll fight until the end. I tell my friends that I'm looking forward to the recall of this body, because when this body's recalled, I'm not going to deal with all these struggles, but I'm going to let God make that decision. So it's something that we have to trust, we have to depend, and we can't do it on ourselves. It's not us that gets us through things. It's Him.
David, you are just amazing. Such an inspiration to me personally. I love this story, and I cannot wait to read your book. Is there going to be another one coming? Do you have more books in you?
Yes, I've got a lot more books in me, Kim, and they're different types. They're not all nonfiction. I've got some sci-fi things, and I know you like sci-fi. I've got a couple of good sci-fi books that I've got in various stages of being worked on. I'd planned to be an author for a long time, but I'd always been busy doing the businesses that we own and couldn't take the time to do it. So PTSD probably forced me into it, but I'd begun writing on these sci-fi stories back in 2003. So they're something that I've worked on off and on all that time. But I've got another book that I'm bringing out that is going to be a prelude to this story that I've written. And it centers around my grandfather, who was likely murdered because he discovered some things in dealing with the name that he had been given at birth being changed without his knowledge of it. He was illiterate. He was a smart man, but he didn't read and he didn't write. And he got his name changed on his marriage certificate without realizing it. And it took my dad, because of that situation, it took my dad until he was in his 80s before he was able to finally find a birth certificate. And it was because it was under his real name, which is hard, instead of what the name was that he'd gone by all his life. And when he discovered that, it began providing a lot of questions to us, because my grandfather died was supposed to have had typhoid fever and died from it, but I got the death certificate, and that's not really what killed him. And more likely,
mystery.
It was very much mystery.
Wow.
I think I know who the perpetrator was, but there was a conspiracy in the family because of a lot of different things that were going on behind the scenes. And it's going to be quite an interesting book to be read, particularly if you know this book, to go back and see where this all started. And of course, one of the things I have to wonder is with my grandfather dying when my dad was 8, we haven't been able to find out whether who the person was that passed this defect along to me. It wasn't something that we could tell with my parents, but someone beyond that, it passed, it skipped whichever one of them it was that it came from and landed in me. My sister doesn't have it. None of my family has it beyond. But it is congenital. It's defined and determined multiple times now by blood work and different tests that have been done. And it is purely a congenital defect in my immune system that had to be passed down to me through my parents from somebody beyond that. And we think it's possible that it was this grandfather. So that was part of the reason I was pursuing that story and opened up a lot bigger story than I ever realized I was going to open up.
I love when that happens. Well, I'm looking forward to all of the books that you have in you to come out, and I hope you'll come back on Writer Groupie and share them with us.
Love to. Anytime.
Wonderful. Well, the guys, that about does it for us tonight on episode 66. Be sure and check us next time. Do look forward to my introduction to this podcast. I do the introduction only on the audio version, so if you're used to looking at the video, just check on the audio this time. I will have some news about Imaginarium and some other stuff coming up for the show. David, thanks a lot for coming on Writer Groupie. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Writer Groupie. For booking information, show notes, and more, visit writergroupie.net.